Hello there. Happy Tuesday. There's going to be a lot of big changes going forward from my recordings. One of the biggest changes will be that I am moving to once a week. We'll be releasing on Tuesdays instead of twice a week. Second thing is a huge change that I've gone through. I started my personal development journey almost 40 years ago, and about 30 years ago, I really just jumped on with a different seminar company, and just a lot of things really started taking off at that point. And this time, I've learned a lot. I have a lot of tools, and I'm very grateful for that. And I kind of, for a little while, thought maybe because I was coaching friends and in mastermind groups where we would coach each other, and I thought, well, maybe that's my purpose. Maybe I'm supposed to coach people. Maybe I'm supposed to do that for a business. And recently, I've come to the realization that although I can do that, and there's nothing wrong with that, the real reason that I got into personal development 40 years ago was not so that I could be a coach. It was so that I could learn all of the tools. I could have the self-esteem that was necessary and everything else that's needed to build a business, particularly with just networking businesses in particular, but all businesses. And I'm returning to my roots in that sense. I'm not going to be focusing on personal development in my videos. I may occasionally bring up a comment or go on a little tangent, but that's not going to be the main subject. Also, not money management. That's another concept, but money mindset is another thing that I may occasionally talk a little bit about, but it's also not going to be a focus going forward. My focus is going to be on health and nutrition and wellness. I have an extensive background in both Western and Eastern medicine and psychology and philosophy, all these different areas. I was a combat medic in the Army, and so it started off right there with my Western medical practice and training. I was later introduced to the power of what the body can do. Actually, I was introduced long before that, but I was reintroduced in my adulthood of what the power of different things that can support the body can do and what the body can do when supported properly. There's a famous quote out there from Thomas Edison, basically says that when the body is supported, it can do pretty amazing things. And nothing's changed. That's still true today. And going forward, I'm going to cut through a lot of the online noise. There's always been a lot of noise online, but now even with the artificial intelligence, the AI, making it very easy for marketers to make commercials and videos and such, it seems to be getting noisier and louder. And that's typical whenever there's a disruptive technology that comes along. And what I'm going to be doing is cutting through a lot of that. There's some things that are tried and true and are still true today. The human body hasn't really changed that much in the last several thousand years. Our environment has changed a lot in the last couple hundred years, but the physiology of the human body has not changed very much from today as it was in not prehistoric, but more ancient times. Going back to ancient Egypt or ancient Babylonia, the human body isn't that much different today than it was back then. Biggest differences are things like we have access to clean water a lot easier than they had back then. That's one of the biggest things that helped help people live longer, was actually just cleaner water and being able to clean in general with germs and such with cleaner water. So it wasn't really a big medication that made people live longer. And I'm not here to disparage any medical practice, any doctors, any prescriptions. In fact, I still take some. And I like the idea of what if we can mix both Western and Eastern philosophies around healing and medicine together. So, of course, anything that I share is an opinion. Nothing here would ever be deemed as, this is going to be a cure or anything like that. I would never say that. And even good doctors wouldn't say that about their own treatments that they're, and they're authorized even to a certain degree to say, well, this in certain percentages will cure certain people with certain conditions. They can actually say that because of different, because of all the testing that has gone through with different medicines and different things in the medical community. And so there's a lot of scientific backing where that authorizes a doctor to maybe talk in that kind of language. But most of the good ones will even say, maybe here are your odds, but they'll say, this treatment is not, it may or may not cure you. We don't know. Everybody's going to react differently. And this is the same spirit is what I bring all of my experience to this, to these videos in that same spirit, where if I share something, it's what's worked for me or what's worked for others. It is never a promise of what may work for you. Who knows? So what I suggest may work for you, may not. Everything that we do, you should always do your own research to make sure that it is okay for you. You should consult with medical personnel to make sure that's okay. Everything I do here is not a replacement of what a doctor should be doing or psychologist or anything like that. So that all being said, for disclaimer, going forward, I'm returning to roots and going to be talking about a lot of just different health and wellness things that I've discovered that have worked for me. So here's one example. I'm going to take a close up and kind of aim a little bit better with the lighting here. And I'll show a video or a picture from about a week ago. There's very little that you can see. Just about a week ago in this eye, I'll show it down in the pictures below. I opened the car door. It was cold. I wasn't paying attention, and I hit the corner of my own car door. I beat myself up really hard right there. It cut. You can see a little bit of the trace and a little bit of the line. It's real subtle. So that was cut. And what I did that helped it heal extremely fast, as you can see, it's almost completely healed. There's practically no trace of it unless you're looking really close and you know what you're looking for. You can't even see it. So what the difference was aloe vera, but it's not the aloe vera that most people are thinking of. Aloe vera, the natural, first of all, there's hundreds of different kinds of aloe vera. Most of them work very well for healing, some better than others. But aloe vera in general, when it's right from the plant, is one of the most powerful healing products on the planet. We still don't have anything that beats it in the Western medicine type world or medication. Yes, we have antibiotics, but that's not the same thing as something that is put on the body and helps the body to communicate and heal faster, which aloe vera does. Aloe is actually the only thing that can cure a radiation burn, according to. So I went to a conference, a medical conference, with the man. I'll look up his name later. He's considered the father of aloe vera research, and he. I couldn't even find his stories online. They're very intriguing. When he was a kid, he and his friends dropped there was a hole in their yard. And they're like, well, I wonder how far it was, little kids. And this was a long, long ago. They dropped a lit match down there thinking that would light up the path so they could see how far it would go. Well, it happened to be a natural gas leak. And whether or not there was an odor, when natural gas comes through Earth, that odor is taken out. And natural gas by itself does not produce that smell naturally. It's added to the gas. So whatever the case, they wouldn't have smelled any gas. They just saw a hole. It was probably coming out. It wasn't coming out fast enough that it was like feeling like wind on their face. So they dropped a match. You can imagine what happened. And a big fire plume came up and burned this guy's face. And his grandmother mother or grandmother at the time, I think his grandmother. She had an aloe vera plant. She put some of the aloe vera sample on his burns, and he healed remarkably fast and remarkably well. And from that point on, he was obsessed with studying aloe vera. And he was hired by different, in fact, he was hired at one time by the FDA. The FDA, way back, we're talking way back in the 70s, 80s era. The FDA said, well, we see that there's all these claims on products about aloe vera healing people. And we just want to know, does it work? And he discovered a couple things about aloe vera that's unique. First of all, if you're going to use aloe to heal yourself, it has to be fresh or it has to be preserved fresh. Most products that you buy on the shelf, they can contain 100% aloe gel directly from an aloe plant, but unless it was processed and preserved in a very short amount of time with a very specific process, it's just useless gel that has no healing components left. All of the healing stuff in the sap of a aloe plant, they are gone within hours of cutting off the leaf, and so that's why it has to be fresh. This is also why, a little history lesson, both Alexander the Great and the Frenchman Napoleon, the reason that they were able to advance so quickly with their armies is they followed their armies with wagons of potted aloe vera. Now, it would have been a lot quicker and easier to just cut the leaves off of the aloe plants and put them in the wagons and carry them. But they knew back then, and they discovered real quickly, that doesn't work, because after you cut it off and you go to use it hours later, a day later, it's not going to be effective. So they actually had to carry potted plants of aloe behind the vanguard, and then that way, after the battle, they could go in and apply that to all of their soldiers. Then they wouldn't lose so many soldiers to infection, which was the number one reason people died back then. It wasn't usually being stabbed by a sword, it was the infection afterwards. And that's how both Alexander the Great and Napoleon were able to advance so quickly with their military campaigns. And now, interestingly enough, we don't really use that since about World War I or World War II especially, but most of the world has stopped using aloe vera, which is kind of sad. It's still an amazing plant. And the key with if you're going to buy it at the store, probably none of it is going to be effective, so you're just wasting your money usually. There is, I know of one source from one company who makes the product, and they process it. Like I said, this is a patented process that they've had for decades, and they keep refining and renewing it. And even though their first original process is out in the public, I don't know that any other company has bothered to take it and run with it, because it's honestly more expensive to process it properly. And for marketing, it's easier and cheaper just to put aloe gel in a bottle and say 100% aloe and let people buy it whether it works or not. So if you want to know what this is, so in my videos, I'm never going to say the name of the company or the product for a couple reasons. One, I want you to opt into my website so that we can have a conversation, and it's just an email opt-in. If you don't want to stay connected, you can opt out, not a problem. But that way, one, I'm able to kind of have some conversation here with you. And two, for compliance, this is a bigger reason. If I were to share a name of a company or a product in this video, then I can no longer talk about all of the medical science and wonders and discoveries, because of the very strict laws that we have in our country to keep people from being misled that, you mentioned product XYZ, and then you said if you get burned, it'll heal you. Well, then that must mean that product XYZ must heal everybody who puts it on them when they get hurt. And of course, we don't make those claims. I'm not making those claims. And so for compliance, this way I can get very deep into the medical, the science, the stories, my stories, other people's stories, and talk about even disease names without crossing over into giving you the name of something that does anything, that I'm talking about. But there is a product that I use, and with the same disclaimer, if you want to know what I use for aloe, I used to have aloe plants. They're great. They take a lot of upkeep. They're not that hard to keep alive, but I live in a very dry climate in Colorado, so they take a little extra work. But if you want to know what that is, just look below. Email me if there's not a link, and later on there'll be a link, and you can go through that link, and then it'll show you, or it'll reply to you with what the product is and where you could buy it if you want to. And so that being said, that's the only way that aloe works. You either got to have it from the real plant or from a source, and I only know of one that's going to process it properly. And so let's get a little more interesting, a little more fun. So this is also the beginning of another science out there. You're going to see some good and bad if you Google the term glyco anything. It's not glyco as far as the sugar that glucose, not that kind of technology that has, because that's related to like diabetes and stuff. I'm not talking about that. There's over 200 sugars in the world, and that's a conversation for the next video, is all these different sugars. Besides glucose, the ones that your body needs, and if it doesn't have, it has to make them. And if it can't make them, you will literally die. It's as necessary as oxygen and water. So the body can make it. It takes an enormous amount of energy, and the body does make it, but it takes energy. And if you are in this constant cycle of trying to replace it, then it's going to be very tiring, both on your body and on your energy level. So the one cool thing, this aloe, it has one of these sugars naturally in the gel. And what it is, it's a communication molecule, basically. It's necessary for the body to communicate. And we're going to talk more about that because I'm at time in the next video. But that's the secret of why aloe works so well. It has one specific sugar molecule that is very specific to help the body communicate when something is broken and needs to be healed. And aloe has the highest concentration of this sugar of anything in the world. It's not glucose. You can't get it from most any other source of food out there. It's just been depleted in our modern diet. Unless you live in a third world country and you grow your own food. And even then, you may not be able to get this sourced. So we'll talk about that in the future video. But if you want to know more about aloe, email me or respond below, and we'll take that conversation offline. I'll follow up through an automated email. You can always email your personal questions, and we can go from there. All right. Signing off. Have a great day.